there, this is Diamond from Diamond Shine Soap, guys. I'm so excited to see you today. Today in the studio, we are going to make a Cookie Monster candle. Now, listen, we cannot name it Cookie Monster because we don't want no problems, food, okay? We are going to be naming this Cookie Lovers or something candle. We're gonna find something, okay, but we're just not going to get sued, okay? So listen, if you have an Etsy store, you better be very careful because they are cracking down on people who are using these names, and you know, of course, you guys know about copyright, so we're just gonna keep it very clean. But anyway, we're gonna do a Cookie Monster inspired candle. I want you to go ahead, hit that like. I want you guys to subscribe to this channel because guess what, I'm coming back with more dessert candles. This is 2024 and I'm turning all the way up for the candle making industry, okay? So go ahead, hit that like, go ahead and hit that subscribe. Listen, if you want to learn how to make candles, go in the link in the description box and you book a one-on-one coaching with me, and I will give you everything you need to make candles. That means if you come to me with this jar, that jar, I'm gonna tell you what size wicks you're gonna need. I'm gonna give you your wax. I'm gonna give you your wick size. I'm gonna give you your fragrance load. I'm gonna make your candle smell good. So if you want to keep spending money at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and stuff like that, wasting your money, and just keep going on YouTube and listening to people and they're giving you bad wick size, you never smell the candle, then go right ahead, continue on, enjoy. But if you want to get it right, go ahead, it's all in the description box. Also, guys, we have a Patreon. That Patreon has so many candle making recipes, skincare recipes, bath bombs, you name it. And we're about to do some turmeric pads this weekend. Everything is all there. You will not be disappointed. So you can go in there and join the Patreon. We have live classes. We always have a blast. We have so much in that Patreon. We got a $5 level, $10 level, and a $20 level, okay? And each level is different things. So you just go ahead and take advantage of that. But anyway, listen, let's go ahead and let's get right into it because I'm so excited about making this candle now. All right, so let me explain this whole candle thing to you guys. Let's get right into it. Okay, so we are going to use this particular jar. These jars can be found on, I will link it in the Patreon, guys. I'll make sure I link it in there. I will link the wick size. Now, these are like rock glasses or whatever. You may not have the same diameter as me because I have like a, maybe like a 3-inch diameter on mine. So yours may be smaller, yours may be bigger. They come in 10 ounce, they come in 14 ounce. So we may not have the same wick size. So I don't want you to use that. Wick size go based on diameter, okay? We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make it, so we're gonna do the base. The base is gonna be brown. Then we're gonna do like some chips, and then we're gonna do like some chocolate chip cookie embeds. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna do like a blue piping. Okay, so listen, when it comes down to stuff like this, this is definitely one of them candles that will take you a while unless you make it like, you know, you gotta do it in bulk. Okay, so like when I do my whip frosting, I normally make a huge bowl. Like in this particular case, since I'm only going to be doing, I'm going to do like a blue in this bowl. This is not that big, but normally I do a huge bowl, and I'll just do like a sugar cookie fragrance or something like that, just so it can be able to go on anything. And I'll just make the top sugar cookie, the embeds that have the smell, so it'll just kind of blend in. Okay, so a lot of people ask me that question, like, you know, do you make everything chocolate? I don't. So this is going to be a little bit longer. Bear with me, guys. I usually try to keep the video like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. This may be longer. All right, let's get into it. Okay, guys, so I am going to add my fragrance. And after I add my fragrance, I'm going to begin to stir for about 2 minutes straight just to make sure that the fragrance bond with the wax. And so during this process, the only thing we're doing is we're going to color this blue, and then after we color it blue, we're going to allow this to sit for about I would say like maybe 40 minutes. It all depends because my workspace is pretty cold. So it really didn't take long for this to solidify enough for us to make the whip out of it. But because we had so many different parts to do with this candle, it did take quite a while for me to get around to it. Okay, so this candle is definitely like one of those candles that, if you're going to sell it, it's going to take a lot for you to do. Because listen, you have to make so much with it. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to begin to add my blue dye. But while I'm adding my blue dye, I just wanted to take this opportunity out to tell you guys to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Okay, all right, so you definitely need to use candle dye. So if this is the first time you on this channel, no, I'm not using water based dye. You cannot use anything with water inside of wax. It will not mix. And I only use 1 drop. And one thing you're going to learn about candle dye is a little go a very long way. Okay, so you really don't need a lot. So don't put like 3 drops, because then you'll look and guess what, you clog the wick. Now when it comes down to my candle dyes and where I purchase them from, guys, of course, I put all of that stuff in my Patreon, so you could be able to access it. Okay, all right, so I looked at this spatula and I'm like, okay, this is the perfect color. And once I realized that was the perfect color, I went ahead, finished stirring it up, and I set it to the side. Another way to make sure that your color is on point is to take like a piece of paper and to put the wax on there, and because it's hard to really see what the color is going to be when it's inside the bowl. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our wick inside of our jar. You want to make sure it's in there. You want to make sure you use something that it will not move. Like once that jar start getting hot, you don't want that wick moving around because it will bust. Okay, it will bust that glass. So it's just not simple as just making a candle. You really got to learn the mechanics behind it. Okay, all right, so this is my brown fudge, so to call it. I made that. I just basically poured it all, the wax, on a piece of paper, and that's some wax paper. So, just letting it dry, and I could just kind of break it up. And I use the same wax that I use to make my candle. Okay, so this is my little cookie mold that I make. So I'm going to take these, and these are going to be like my little chocolate chips inside of my cookie mold. And of course I had to make my own mold because I did not find like any mold that small. Okay, so I went to the store and I got the Chips Ahoy, and that's how I made it. So I just took those little chips off of that wax that you guys see sitting on that paper, and I put it inside of the mold, and I just poured the wax into there, and that's how it came out. It probably took me about 30 minutes to make that mold, and it was finished in about 30 minutes. Okay, all right, I do have a video on the Patreon to teach you how to make silicone molds at home, because not all the time can we order these silicone molds from different people, because they are expensive. You start really realizing, like, once you're making candles, you're always going to need a silicone mold if you're making dessert candles, and that's more and more money that you're paying for shipping and stuff like that. So to cut the cost, it's just best to make your own molds at home. Now, I do have like a chocolate chip actual mold where I could have used like real like chocolate chips shape, but it really don't look right in those mini cookies. The best way to do it is this way. So I made enough of this like fudge stuff that if I want to make 10 more candles, I have enough of this fudge to do it. Okay, so I'm going to put this candle up on my website, and it's going to be on there for sale. So this is the finished product before I pour my wax into there, and as you can see, my wax is like a brown color or whatever. All right, so this is the whipped wax that I'm going to be using. I already have it like ready. Only thing I have to do is just take it and use my hand mixer just to soften it up just a little bit. The one thing you're going to notice about the whipped wax, you can leave it in the bowl for 14 days and it will still be good. Okay, all right, so I pour my wax into the jar, and I also poured it into the mold as well. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm adding these little realistic looking fudge pieces to my jar, so I can just give it like that chip look, because we're doing like a Cookie Monster chocolate chip cookie. So I just wanted to give it like a realistic chip look, and this is what sets you apart from everyone else, because you did not have to do this part to your candle, but you did this just to give it that extra special touch. Okay, so this is what makes people come to you and say, hey, I want to buy your candles in bulk. Sounds good, right? All right, so I'm just going and I'm just going to keep loading these chips in there. And of course, I didn't put a whole lot. One thing you're going to notice about using dark colors is dark colors do sometimes clog the wick. Okay, when I mean clog the wick, you'll look at your wick and it just don't burn properly. Okay, it'll stop burning midway into the candle. Okay, so you can load the cookies along the walls of the jar that way, or you could do it last. And that's what I'm actually going to do. Like, I put it in and then I just ended up taking it back out. All right. So this is my favorite part. You just find you a cup and begin to load that whip wax into that piping bag with that piping tip. Okay. And this is the part where we're going to go ahead and we're going to pipe. Okay. So I used a very small piping bag because of course I was using I'm just making one jar, so I didn't need a whole lot of whip wax, and I definitely didn't need a big giant thick piping bag. You can find you some really cheap piping bags on Amazon. A lot of them will come from China and they'll be like really thin, and that's the one I'm using right here, the cheap ones. For what I'm doing, but the very thick ones, they cost a little bit more. Okay, so now we're just going to start piping into the jar. So what I'm going to do is I'm just pretty much just piping little flowers along the wall of the jar, and that's normally how I start off, is just by like doing the outside, and then I come to the inside. So I'm just putting my cookies there so they will just, be ready for me to just put them in a jar. I don't have to reach all over the place to find them. So it's very important to move quick when you're doing stuff like this. I was in a cold space, so I was just like, I didn't want to take too long doing it. So just making everything accessible. All right, so I had some fudge at the bottom, so I kind of moved my wax around, but that was okay. Listen, you will not be as perfect as me, as perfect as the next person. Put your own unique twist to anything that you do. Okay, so I'm just going around and I'm piping, because this is the way that your cookie embeds kind of sit in place, and you don't have to worry about just having them and they not being seen along the walls of the jar. So these little flower piping techniques that I'm doing is basically like a glue that holds those cookies in place so they don't fall back and stuff like that. Okay. All right. So I'm just placing these along the walls of the jar, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to pipe in the middle. Okay. And remember, don't use a whole lot. Don't use a whole lot in one place. So only put maybe 3 or 4 going around like that, so people can kind of see it when they hold the candle up, or just look at the candle at the front angle. And then I start piping into the middle, and I remember the top of the candle, I wanted that to have cookies as well. So piping in the middle, you need to make sure that you definitely pipe around that wick. That wick needs to have wax. Okay, it definitely needs to have wax, because one thing you will notice about a wick is when it starts burning, it just it's like a hand, it reaches for that wax. If it does not have that wax, you'll see that wick just kind of go in and tunnel. It will tunnel really quick. Okay. And so these are the techniques that I teach people in Patreon, how to get the candle to burn, how to keep it burning and stuff like that. And also when I give you your coaching session, I give you your wick sizes and stuff like that, because that matters. One thing about the wick wax is it will cause that flame to be a little bit higher. So you need to know exactly what fragrance load to use, what size wick to use, what series burn a little bit smaller than the other, because some of them have bigger flames just naturally, and then some of them have smaller size wicks with smaller flames. Okay, so candle making is a science. You just can't make a candle. Okay, you could go to the store and buy all these supplies and you'll end up not smelling it, so that's important too. All right, so I ended up coming up with a recipe, because a lot of people see I'm just pulling my wick to the middle, will just make these candles and end up failing at them. So these are the techniques to keep them burning properly. Okay, all right, so now what I'm doing is I have already piped all in the middle. I'm just going to pipe along the sides just to fill in those gaps, because as you can see, there's like small circles and stuff like that. And just making sure I pull my wick to the middle. That's the most important part, because as that wax harden up and solidify, you don't want that wick off centered, because it would just make you have to go back over it and fix that wax on the top. Okay. All right. So that is it. I'm done piping into this candle. You know, sometimes I'll just go around and just kind of see little stuff and fix that, but otherwise it's perfect. It looked really good. So we have everything filled up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some cookie embeds to the top of the candle just to give it that last little pop. So I used a total of maybe about 6 cookies. Yeah, so as you can see, I definitely will need a huge mold if I'll be making these cookie monster candles in bulk. Okay. All right. So I'm adding my little chocolate pieces to give it, of course, that last little pop. To the top, just a few. I'm not going to overdo it, and that's the most important part. Don't overdo it, because sometimes people will start, you know, putting drizzle and all that kind of stuff. No, just keep it very simple and your candle will burn properly. Okay, so this is the finished product. Okay, I love it. It looks really nice. The only thing I have to do now is trim my wick and clean my jar, and it is finished. Okay, all right, so now that I have finished my jar, the only thing I have to do is create a nice beautiful label. Now when it comes down to labeling this jar, you want to make sure that you don't use anything like that will cover up the whole entire jar and like hide your artwork. You want to use a clear label or just something small. Okay, so this is the finished product right here. As you can see, yeah, that's it. All right.